Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. All right, I've had some special guests on this week, but this one's extra special to me, not because he's a legend. He's been doing this for a long time, but also, I don't mean to embarrass you right off the bat, Hanagriff, but you're a big reason why I got into this industry. Listen to you on the radio and your candor and how you get straight to the point, no BS. I try to emulate in my work for my channel as often as I can. So it's really special to have you on, and thank you for doing this.
Well, I appreciate that. Very nice of you to say, and I'm glad to join you today.
Awesome. All right, so let's get to it. We are going to talk mostly LSU, but I do want to get two Saints questions out of the way. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, I'm done talking about, Mike Evans and all that stuff. The situation is what it is. But after the game, I put most of the blame not on the refs, because I'm not a blame the refs guy. I blame the coaches guy. And I was really upset with Dennis Allen because they threw Jameis Winston out there with 4 fractures in his back, while you had, in my opinion, the best backup in the NFL, now that Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter. And you continued to play Jameis Winston after watching that crap performance for, over 2 quarters. And there was just never really a consideration to change. Am I off base at all with that? And should Andy Dalton, be the starter going forward for the foreseeable future?
I don't know how badly Jameis Winston was hurting on Sunday. I don't know if it was impeding his ability to throw the football accurately, if it was impeding his motion at all. I think I'm just guessing along here that after watching Jameis Winston struggle through 3 quarters in Atlanta and then explode in the 4th quarter, that's what Dennis Allen was waiting for. And given that the game was still within, it was tied when, the altercation happened and all that, there wasn't a sense of urgency, I don't believe, to make a quarterback change. I think they were just waiting for Jameis to explode. Now, if there is some kind of, lingering effects of this injury, I'll be honest with you, when I first got the word, I got the word about an hour before game time, not even an hour before game time, that Jameis Winston had 4 broken bones in his back, and I just assumed that he was out for the season. Those kind of things sound like they are season-ending and career-threatening when you talk about back and neck, but that wasn't the case. So my guess is that they were just waiting for the Jameis Winston of the 4th quarter of the Atlanta game to show up.
So the Saints offensive line, obviously they've not been playing great up to this potential. They have good players. They're just not playing good. Specifically in pass protection has left a lot to be desired. We've seen a lot of bad offensive line play, though, through some talented units in the NFL the first 2 weeks. My theory is, and this is just a theory, and I don't think I'm the only one, that the trend of sitting out most of your starters in preseason and most of training camp, which is a trend that, Sean McVay and the Rams have elevated recently, has something to do with that. Do you think that's a valid excuse at all, or should we be concerned about this offensive line moving forward?
Well, the defensive guys that are making all those sacks that are starters are sitting out too in the preseason. So, but I do think that there's probably something to that. Tackling is not as critical. The training camps have been pared down. There's probably something to, but the Saints' problem, I don't think is necessarily that's going to be where it's entirely rooted. These are good players that the Saints have, or players that have played well. Ramczyk has been a Pro Bowl guy. McCoy, they just signed to a contract extension. I think it's probably one of the top 3 or 4 centers in the NFL. Andrews Pete has performed at a high level in the past, so he's had his problems. Even Cesar Ruiz, he's been up and down a little bit, but we've seen him play well. And James Hurst is a veteran, so I don't have a good explanation for you why this group is not playing better. I can tell you that Ramczyk missed a lot of time. Maybe there's something lingering. Ruiz has been up and down. Maybe he's in a down spell. Hurst has been a dependable player, but certainly not a star. And Andrews Pete has been around a long time, has also gone through some peaks and valleys. I would call it more of a slump than a long-term problem. It's not my biggest long-term concern with the Saints.
So I guess on top of that, what is your biggest long-term concern for the Saints at the moment?
The quarterback.
Fair enough.
Not to the quarterback. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to LSU. I don't know if we're in the honeymoon period anymore with Brian Kelly after the loss to Florida State, but I think it's fair to say we're still in a grace period right now, considering what he inherited and after, the win against what I think is still a very good Mississippi State team. But even though we're in the grace period, has there anything in these past 10 months that you've seen out of Brian Kelly that you've had a problem with or taken issue with? Anything at all? It could be big, it could be minor.
No, I thought he was exceptionally quiet the first 3 months he was here. We've since figured out, it's been explained to us why. He cleaned out the whole building. It wasn't just some coaches. It was pretty much almost all of the coaches. It was all of the support personnel. It was, the strength and conditioning staff, the recruiting staff. There's somewhere between 70 and 100 people that work in that building besides the players. He changed them all. I mean, with a few exceptions, the equipment staff and the video staff, but I don't think anybody else survived it because that he wanted to come in and put a stamp on the program. So at that time, I thought, not being a little bit more visible might hurt him. It did not. It did not hurt him in recruiting. It did not hurt the program at all. But it was a little bit of a nervous period. For 3 months, basically, you didn't see the LSU coach. And at that time of year, that's really unusual. But that fear has been alleviated. Since then, I think everything has moved in the right direction. It moved as fast, maybe, as anybody wants. They've gone through, I think, now 4 different combinations of offensive line since the beginning of camp. I think they've got the one they want now, but it took some doing. They made a major change in the secondary once they got into the season. I think that was a big deal. I think they've gotten some freshmen on the field besides the offensive line that have made a real impact. Harold Perkins is the obvious example there. They had to make some adjustments on special teams, and they still have some more to make. So getting in there and actually seeing the product on the field has allowed him to make those moves that maybe he wasn't ready to make during an August camp.
Does this, I guess, takes, you back a little bit, but when Saban came and, I wasn't covering the team then, but when Saban came over to LSU, was there sort of like a reluctance with him as far as like, okay, even though they may not be winning as many games as you want them to, especially that UAB loss early on, was there still the feel up to all off season and early on in that season that, okay, they're taking their lumps, but so far, like everything is just organization wise that better? Like, do you remember seeing that and thinking that at that time?
Yeah, the UAB angst didn't last very long for 2 reasons. The biggest reason is that they came and beat Tennessee the very next week. And Tennessee was a ranked team at the time. Tennessee was a national power at the time. It was an overtime win, really big get. And so that was the biggest reason. The second reason was a lot of people, fair or not, blame the UAB loss on Josh Booty. I don't think that was fair, but Booty threw a pass that wasn't in the playbook, as the legend goes, and that was what allowed UAB to get the winning point. So a lot of people dumped it at Josh's feet. I never thought that was particularly fair, but it was reality at the time. So the angst didn't last very long in Nick Saban's first year.
So after watching LSU beat Mississippi State and seeing some other SEC teams play, has your win-loss prediction for LSU changed back since you watched them lose to Florida State, or has it stayed the same since the Florida State loss?
No, you can adjust this stuff every week if you want. You'll drive yourself crazy. I always thought that there were more toss-up games on this schedule than any in recent memory. I thought the Mississippi State was a toss-up game. I thought the Florida State was a toss-up game. I think that probably all 4 games in October are toss-up games, and at least 2 of the games in November are toss-up games. And my rule of thumb is you take the toss-up games, count them up, chop them in half, and that's how many wins you give them. And so if there's 3 wins on the schedule that you should have pretty much in your pocket, barring a monster upset. They've already got one of those, and they've got another one of those games this weekend. And then the other games, and they're going to be a massive underdog to Alabama. So you take the other 8 games, and you say, well, those games are tossed up. The point spreads will be inside of a touchdown, I think, for probably all of those games. And you say you split them. Now, if I knew which ones they were going to win and which ones they were going to lose, then I'd really be on to something. But generally, I think the teams that are in the position of LSU are going to split those toss-up games. And by the way, I think that there's a lot of teams that are in the same boat. I would consider Mississippi State in that boat. I would consider Auburn, Florida, Arkansas, Texas A&M. All of those teams in that boat where none of them are great, none of them are terrible.
Okay, let's get to the quarterback because that's all I get ever asked about. Look, Jaden Daniels is a big reason why they are where they are from an offensive standpoint in a good way. I think in a good way, and in some ways, a frustrating way. Look, he's not a great pocket passer, but every player has their weakness. I mean, you put Tom Brady in the triple option, he's not Tom Brady. But while his running ability with him has kept this offense out of trouble, and while they're finding their footing and continuity and everything, my concern is that how sustainable is this for 2 more months against SEC defenses? He's one bad hit away from the fact that you're going to put in a redshirt freshman who has trouble with interceptions and never started a game, or a true freshman that's taken 4 snaps against Southern. Is that your probably your biggest concern right now with the offense outside of just execution?
Well, you could say that there's a lot of teams and quarterbacks that are one hit away. I mean, Richardson runs a lot at Florida. Both of the Auburn quarterbacks have run a little bit. TJ Finley had a big run in the first quarter the other night, and then he got knocked out. He's not going to play this week. KJ Jefferson at Arkansas runs an awful lot. Max Johnson doesn't at Texas A&M. I guess he'd be the exception to that. So I don't know that you can worry about one hit being away. I do worry about the culmination of hits, the buildup that is going to allow him to play, but not play at a level with which he's comfortable because he's in pain. What my big question mark about with the offense is at what tempo will they run? Daniels has obviously been a lot better when the tempo has been up, even throwing the football from the pocket. If you go back and watch some of the throws he made in the last drive against Florida State, those were throws that he made from the pocket, but they made as fast as you can. But up tempo is, I think, key to unleashing everything that Daniels can do. The thing that I was most encouraged about against Mississippi State is that they were able to establish a running game with that tempo that did not involve Daniels. They ran for 114 yards outside of what the quarterback ran for. And if you're going to run tempo and not absolutely crush your defense, you have to be able to do it with some semblance of a running game. And that was a real concern for me, continues to be a real concern for me. But they have made some more changes on the offensive line. They got John Emery back, gives them another option back there. That was probably the most encouraging thing I saw in the Mississippi State game.
I don't know if you've heard this or not. I've talked to other people in the media who have heard this, but have you heard any rumblings about Walker Howard getting more reps with the twos, maybe over Garrett Nussmeier going into New Mexico this week?
I would be surprised if it was not Nussmeier in the game after Daniels if the second quarterback plays this week. Not anxious to rush him into any situations that would put him in harm's way or would in any way stunt his development. That being said, I don't think that there's a whole lot of the percentages of a red shirt benefiting Walker Howard at LSU are pretty slim, in my opinion. For a red shirt to make sense for him, he's got to be playing quarterback for LSU in 2026. One way or another, I just don't think that's going to happen. He'll do really well and he'll move on. Or if things don't work out, he'll move on. But the idea that he'll wait around until 2026 and still be the quarterback here is impossible. It could have happened with Miles Brennan at the transfer portal. I would submit to you that fifth-year guys that are playing for the same team that redshirted them, that's going to be a really, really low number. So no, I don't think that Walker Howard is the number 2 quarterback right now. But ask me again in October and November, my answer might be different.
Okay. All right. Last question. I'll get you out of here. Special teams haven't been great. Brian Polian's been, getting beaten up the last 3 weeks, and rightfully so. They just haven't been good. But, Polian also was a really good special teams coach at Notre Dame. If you look at the statistics. And my whole thing is that good coaches don't become bad coaches overnight. It happens slowly over time. But when Brian Kelly said on Monday, we have to do a better job coaching and I need to be more involved specifically with the punt returner situation, is that a direct shot at Polian, or is that just coach speak for, well, the players aren't good enough?
No, that got my attention. There's been 3 weeks worth of recurring problems. The punt returner is an easy enough fix. You pick another guy. I mean, they had 3 other guys working at punt returner all through August. So, you pick another one that you like. That's an easy enough fix. The coverage is a lot tougher to fix because now you probably have to make multiple personnel and or I don't want to call them schematic changes. It's not like they're going to do anything drastically different on kickoff coverage, but the contained people have to understand that they have contained, and not have you out there with a 320-pound offensive lineman in charge of not letting the kick returner get outside of him. And God bless, he made the play. So I would tell you that there's going to might be something real subtle, like flipping 2 or 3 of the guys that are already on the coverage units and having them play somewhere different. It might involve some personnel changes. Can you name the 11 guys on LSU's kickoff team? I can't. I know some of them, but I don't remember. I can give you the LSU depth chart on offense and defense by rote. I can't do it on the coverage team. So it might not be something that we even notice right away, but then it's like, oh, wait a minute. The coverage got better when they flipped this guy and they put this guy in instead. And I do think that's going to be a point of emphasis. And yeah, when the boss says, I'm coming in and I need to pay more attention to this. Yeah, it should have gotten players and coaches' attention.
All right, fair enough. Charlie, thank you so much for doing this out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a good day.
Hey, Nick, anytime. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.